I can honestly say I really enjoy writing a book. It was very helpful for me uh, to put down my feelings, you know, on paper, and it was therapeutic. It helped me. Throughout the pages. I mean, there's some tears on the pages. I got frustrated rewriting about things in my past. I got a little angry. So I mean, it brought it to the forefront once again, which was helpful. Saying to see how I made it out. How God gave me, the strength to make it out any situation. That you're put in. So I was really missing my father, when I was younger, and there was some days that I missed him more than other days. But he chose the lifestyle, he wanted to partake in, and I talk a little bit about that in the book, and I also, talked about how, you know, um, my mom, struggled, when we were younger, and how she did everything to provide for us, and how some days, she didn't even eat, and I didn't even know this, growing up now, I can talk to my mom, and she'd tell me now, there was some days that she didn't even eat, she just wanted to make sure we had food on our table, and and I know a lot of people can relate to that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people know how that feels, not to have that security, what I'm saying, or when you have two or three kids, what I'm saying, a single parent. So my mom did her thing, and I talk a lot about that in my book as well. I also talk a lot about uh, me being locked up, going to prison. It was I never even had a speeding ticket. And I'm not saying I wasn't guilty, because I was. I mean, I got what I deserved. I was planning on doing more if I didn't get caught. So, God had His timing, for me to buckle down and take care of what He had for me. And He had in store for me to learn patience. He had in store for me to get rid of some of the anger I had, not only about my dad, but about some of the things I was going through in my life. And it was just frustrating for me, and to ultimately get locked up and be put in prison opened so many doors in my mind, that I never knew that was there. I started singing, I started recording music, I had became friends with people whom I never thought I would be friends with. So I mean, that was awesome in itself. The book also talks about how my dad actually, at the same time, about 6 months down the road after I got locked up, he actually got locked up at the same penitentiary where I was, and and it was very awkward. And what made it even more awkward was my stepdad was there as well. He was someone who was probably the only one I can call dad. If I had to choose, he would be my stepdad. Would be the only person I would call dad. You know, he did drugs, and he eventually, him and my mom eventually divorced. But and it it was a tough situation for me, to have both of them there at the same time I was there. I felt sometimes like I was being pulled both directions. I felt like I had to choose. And all the hate that I had for my dad, always goes away every time I see him, or even talk to him. It's like nothing ever happened. He's like still the person who I knew I have grown to look so much alike. I look almost identical to that man, and I look at him and like, man, why did you make that choice, not to be a part of my life growing up? And eventually, we finally sat down, and it was a very short conversation. It wasn't long at all, but it was the only time I talked to my dad, and it was amazing. It was an amazing 5-minute conversation, and the book goes into detail about it, and I'm really hoping that there's a lot of people who can learn something from this, because I didn't give up. I had to fight, even though I failed so many times. You have to continue to move forward. You have to continue to drive forward, and that's what I did. And so if you guys have any questions, let me know, and I'll try to answer them. And subscribe. Everybody subscribe to my page. I'm gonna continue to put videos up about my book and the process that's going on. I just finished it, so I'm in the process of getting it edited, and hopefully, I don't know what direction I'm going to go with publishing, but hopefully, if the Lord is willing, it'll be an easy process, but you never know. But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Ask me any questions and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again. Thank you.